So the tyre is now nicely fitted, and as you can see, the excess rubber is hanging out all the way around both sides with the tyre fitted on the rim as usual. Thing I'm not too sure about at the moment is that it doesn't seem to be seating quite properly around the valve stem here. The bead seems to be sticking up a little bit more there than it does anywhere else. But we're going to have a go at inflating, and I'm going to inflate it without any sealant just to see what happens. Who knows? So here goes. So here we go to inflate. As you might have expected, we've got no inflation at all there. Now, I was deliberately doing that just to see what happens. Apparently the thing that needs to happen is we need to put soapy water in between the tyre and the rim here to help form something of a seal. So we're going to do that and see what happens next. So it's just a case of rubbing the soapy water around in between the rim and the tyre. So here we are, nice soapy tyre, and we'll now give it an inflate, and here you go, up it pops. So it's inflating, but obviously leaking. As you can see, we've got some pressure in there, yep, which is great. So what we're going to do now is let it down and put some sealant in. So before I put the sealant in, I thought I'd just have a look. Just look how much that has inflated without any sealant. That's purely the tube and the tyre. You know, the compressor's not attached, but we can make it burp if we give it a good squeeze. I think. There, hear that? But there we go. It's inflated. I must admit, I'm as amazed as anyone. So, bit of talc down my throat. So let's now put the sealant in and see if we can get a permanent seal on it. Well, I've removed the valve core, and I'm going to put the sealant in. So the best way to do this, that I've found from doing the other kits, is to take the bottle with the nozzle. I think there's about 50 ml in here or so, and at the 9 o'clock position, or even at 3 o'clock, just insert the bottle and then turn around to the 6 o'clock position, and what we're going to do now is to squirt it in. Now I'm going to need both hands to do that, so it's just a case of squeezing the bottle, that's all, and we'll be back shortly. So that's the sealant gone into the tyre. So all we're going to do now is just work the sealant around inside the tyre a little bit by giving it a good shake, and over the other way. You can see the sealant coming out everywhere. Let's inflate it again. Okay, we've got some pressure there and not much in the way of leaks. So, shaking it, you can hear we've still got sealant in there. So we're just going to slosh the sealant around both sides, and here's where we need the bucket again. So having sloshed it all around, I'm now going to leave it for a few minutes to just lie flat, and hopefully that'll seal up any remaining leaks that we've got. Just give it maybe 5-10 minutes and flip it over, give it a good shake around and leave it to rest on the other side, and we'll be back then for the next stage in the process. So it looks like a success. We've got a nicely inflated tyre, and what we need to do now is to remove this stuff, because it doesn't look particularly attractive. This is the excess rubber from the inner tube, and the thing to do that with is a Stanley knife. Now I've found that I started to do it already, as you can see here. I don't know if I'll be able to do this with one hand, but holding the Stanley knife like so, and with a sharp blade, it just requires very little pressure. To just gently remove the rubber that you don't want, just by cutting between the tyre and the rim. There's so little pressure here that it's very unlikely that I'm going to cut through the tyre. It's just pulling away nicely. So I'm going to continue to do that on both sides, and we'll be back later, because I can assure you with two hands it's a lot easier than with one. So there you go, one tubeless tyre with the rubber all removed, and this is what you're left with. And you can use these to drop on your postman's drive as a bit of revenge for the red ones that he leaves on yours. And that's it. So it should be a case of no more punches. I've been running tubeless since before the beginning of 2007, and I haven't had a puncher since, or at least that's not necessarily true. What it means is I've never noticed I've had a puncture, because obviously the latex that's inside the tube, or rather inside the tyre, will seal the hole up for you, so you'll never even be aware that you've had one. So this is now my 5th tubeless wheel that I've got. I'm going to get on and do the other one next on the rear of the bike, and it's certainly a lot cheaper. All you need to do is to get yourself some of this. You don't really need a big bottle like this. There's I don't know what size that is, 500 ml, so you've got enough for about 10 wheels in there, and a £4.99 tube from Chain Reaction, and you're done. Half an hour later and you've got yourself a tubeless tyre. There is a downside to doing it this way, which I haven't yet experienced, but you know, it's something worthwhile considering. If you buy yourself the DT Swiss kit like I've got in these, then what you get with that is, if I can find one in my box, you get a valve that looks like this, and so you fit in a rim strip and then you fit in a valve, so the rim strip and the valve aren't all one piece, whereas with the method that we used on this wheel, it's all one piece. Now what that means is that if you are out on the trail and you maybe have run out of latex because you haven't topped it up every few months, or you get a big hole that the latex can't seal and you end up having to patch the tyre, then you're going to need to put a tube in. But that will mean on this method here that you'll have to remove the BMX tube that you put in. Whereas with this one, when I fitted the DT Swiss kit, there's no need to take the rim strip out. All you need to do is to take out that removable valve that I just showed you and keep that for later, and then put a tube in. So that's it. Have fun riding on your brand spanking new tubeless tyres.